Hi there, beautiful people. Welcome back to Stories Down Under. Today we are so excited because we are talking about the tax deductions available to you, and we have over 10 deductions. We want you to be smiling all the way to the bank at the end of this financial year. However, just a little disclaimer, we are not tax agents. This is not tax advice. This is just for your information. That way you do not leave out on any of the deductions that could be available to you. So if you require any individual advice that is tailored to your situation, please contact the ATO or your tax agent. So with that said, we're going to jump straight in with the deductions available. So Fran, please take us through our first deduction.
Nice. The first deduction that we'd like to talk about today is working from home. We all know that this is a fairly new topic because this only started post-COVID and not many people have background and more details on how to claim this. But yes, when you're working from home, you can claim a number of deductions, and there are ways of getting down to this. The first one is looking at the actual expense. You can use the actual expense method. And the first expenses that we're going to look at now is utility. We're thinking of gas, water, electricity, and any form of utility that you might incur while working from home. Please take note that on these expenses, there will be expenses that you incur only when working from home. For example, when you have your bill, you should look at the portion of work that you've done, not the full bill, but only what you've done for work to get this income. The other method, which I'll leave to Stella, is the fixed rate method of calculating working from home expenses.
Yeah, absolutely. This particular method, I like to use it because, again, the substantiation requirements are a bit different. With the actual cost, you need to keep all these invoices. However, we've been provided another method by the ATO, which the rate this year is 67 cents. So how I go about it is that, for example, on a weekly basis, I only work 10 hours per week from home, and there are 52 weeks in a year. So I'll just go 10 times 52 weeks in a year times the rate, which is 67 cents, and that will give me the total deduction available to me. Yeah.
Nice one, Stella. The next one is tools and equipment of trade. Like we all know, some of us work as tradies, some of us work in the professional field. Just be aware that you can claim a number of items when you work as a tradie. For example, if you are in TAFE and you work as a welder, a carpenter, or any other form of trade, know that you can claim power tools. These are like drillers, machine drillers, and things like that. Also, you have hand tools like screwdrivers, hammers, hacksaws. You also can claim things like calculators. For us accountants, I and my calculator, we never part. Also, those who are in the music field, you can claim things like keyboard, guitar, and if you're a photographer, you can claim cost of cameras, films, and things like that. Also, don't forget that there are other things, tools that you use that you can claim. For example, cases, laptop bags, laptop cases, suitcases for traveling. But make sure that only part that you use for traveling for work purposes is claimed.
Absolutely. I love that you're emphasizing on the proportion of the expense that you use for work-related expense. Remember, the ATO likes to use the word, it has to have a nexus to your accessible income.
I like that word.
Which is basically, it's got to have a connections with your accessible income, meaning your wages. So please take note of that. The other one I want to talk about is the car expenses. There are two methods that you can use to claim your car expenses. This is the logbook method and the cents per kilometer method. The rate that has been given this year is 78 cents. So the cents per kilometer method limits you to only 5,000 kilometers. So anything above that, then you're required to use the logbook method. So please remember, it has to be work to work. So for those who go to see different clients, then you're able to deduct. But for those of us like me, who only travels from work to the office and back, then that is not deductible.
Nice one. The next one is travel expenses. remember that sometimes you might be asked to travel for work, but most of the times your employer will cover these expenses. But in cases where your employer does not cover these expenses, you are entitled to claim them as allowable deductions. And these expenses can be accommodation, can be food. Just make note that alcohol is not considered as food, and this can go into entertainment section, which we are not going to cover now. You can also claim travel expenses. For example, if you use Uber, taxi or bus, keep the records, keep an itinerary of your travel, keep a diary just for substantiation. We will keep emphasizing on substantiation because we know how important it is when claiming deductions.
Excellent. I love that. I think the other one that I'm super excited about this financial year is self-education expenses. I have mentioned a couple of times here, I am studying for my CPA studies, which I'm really happy because it is related to my work. So any self-education expense that is related to your current wages, then it is deductible. So if it's not related, unfortunately, if it's the normal procedure of just acquiring skills, for example, if you're just in college, maybe to study engineering and the sort, but you're not working in that field, unfortunately, it's not deductible. So some of the self-education expenses that you're looking at is your tuition fee, if you need to pay for any subscriptions to journals or subscriptions to membership. For example, I'm required to be a CPA member, which is an annual fee that I have to pay. Textbooks, travel. So if I have to travel from home to school and back, as well as from work to school and back, that is tax deductible to me, as well as just other stationery expenses, the cost of books, reference materials, pens, computers, anything that helps me to actually be able to do my studies, and I am able to deduct them. So for those who are studying and trying to gain the relevant skills in order to get a promotion at work, then go you, because that is definitely tax deductible.
Excellent. The next one is superannuation contribution. Most of us would like to have a good retirement plan and bump up their super, as in that is one of the best ways of bumping up your retirement plan. If you know or if you're not aware, you can always do an extra contribution towards your super and claim it as a tax deduction. The first thing you need to do is to notify your superannuation company or provider that you will be claiming a tax deduction on this, and they have to accept and notify you that they have taken consideration of that. Also, you can be currently we have a concessional cap of 27,500, which is a good amount. So just make sure that your contribution for the year is capped to 27,500 so you can get that concession.
Absolutely. I love that. The other one that of course is worth mentioning is your phone and internet expenses. So anytime I'm at home and I'm using my phone to speak to team members, to communicate, maybe if you have to deal with customers or suppliers, any phone or internet expenses, for the percentage that you use for your work purposes, that is tax deductible. So how you would go about it, keep a diary for at least 4 weeks and try to see how much of your phone expenses is really related to work. For example, if you have an annual expense of 1,000 and 50% of the time you use your phone for work-related calls and internet expenses, then 500 will be deductible to you this year. So make sure you get that calculation right. And if you don't know how to go about it, please refer to the ATO website.
Good one. The other one that we cannot forget to mention is protective clothing, uniforms, and laundry. I know most of us work in different areas, and in your work, maybe you're expected to wear protective clothing, for example, overalls, aprons, goggles, steel cap boots, and even helmets. And for others in the health sector, there is compulsory uniform. For example, nurses must wear scrubs. Doctors also must wear scrubs. I'm not 100% sure, but I think It is compulsory. Know that you can claim a deduction on this, and also you can claim deduction on your laundry. Yes, you can, just washing your clothes. And the current requirement or the current allowance provided by ATO is $1 per load. That is for only work clothes, or 50 cents per load if you intend to mix your washing. Also, you can get away with a deduction of $150 without having to substantiate. And I think, this is an area that most people need to look at, so you can maximize more on your uniforms, protective wear, and any other thing that you really need for your work.
Absolutely. I love that. The other one that we also have to talk about is the gifts and donations. So if you're a philanthropist and you've been giving your money to companies that have the DGR status, which is basically deductible gift recipient status, we're going to leave a link in the description. That way you can check whether the non-governmental organizations that you donated to have this particular status. Then you're able to deduct any money that you've paid above $2, which is really, really good. Encourages you to keep giving. Yeah.
Just remember not to ask for deductions for money that you've given to your family members. Like a friend of mine asked me recently, she'd sent her grandmother $100 for her birthday gift, and she was thinking of claiming it. Please do not do that.
No
it's
way,
not
Jose.
Otherwise, we'd like to wrap this up by thanking you
one
so
last
much.
One last one before we wind up. I think I just remembered the cost of managing your tax affairs. So please remember that is tax deductible. So that's why we keep telling you, if you don't know how to calculate it, why don't you go to your tax agent? Because, for example, if last year you incurred a cost of $200 to manage your tax affairs, that is 100% tax deductible this financial year.
Absolutely.
Also, those people who subscribe to different apps to be able to keep records of their receipts and invoices, if you buy any books and reference materials so that you can get your taxation right, as long as you can substantiate with a receipt that shows the date, the amount, and the description, then you're able to claim. So, and we were winding up. So thank you so much. Those are more than 10 deductions available to you. I hope you'll be smiling all the way to the bank. And thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.